You know that feeling, right? When you're learning English and you just feel stuck. Like you understand way more than you can actually say. And finding speaking partners, well, that can be tough.
Yeah, definitely. It's a common frustration.
But what if practicing on your own could actually make a huge difference? And that's what we're diving into today.
Exactly. We looked at this great conversation from the Speak English with Class YouTube channel. It was their English League podcast.
Ah, okay.
And they really tackled this exact problem.
Yeah.
How do you genuinely improve your speaking, like your fluency and confidence, even if you're mostly practicing solo?
Right. So that's our mission here. We want to pull out those proven techniques they talked about, give you stuff you can actually do.
Yeah, actionable things.
Things you can weave into your day, like starting today.
Yeah.
The goal is really helping you sound more confident, more natural when you speak, even if it's just you practicing.
And they even mentioned, for anyone wanting more, they have a free PDF guide. The link's in their original YouTube description, apparently.
It's not useful.
Yeah, it's got like key points, questions, grammar stuff, good for extra practice. And we'll try to point out some useful intermediate words they use as we go along, too.
Yeah.
So, ready to jump in?
Let's do it. Okay, so let's unpack this first one. Because it sounds kind of obvious at first, but the why behind it is key. Thinking in English.
Yeah, this is fundamental, especially for solo learners. I mean, without that constant back and forth conversation, your own head, your internal monologue, that becomes your main practice space, right? The podcasts use this analogy, like your brain is a slow-loading website if you're always translating.
Ah, I like that.
You think it in your language, then
Yeah.
you translate, then you maybe rearrange the grammar, then you speak. All those steps, they just slow you down, affect your fluency.
Totally. So the idea is to kind of bypass that. Train your brain to just form the thought directly in English.
Exactly. And they gave some really simple, like down-to-earth examples. Just narrate your life.
Like what you're doing.
Yeah. Making breakfast, for instance, instead of the whole translation thing. Just think, okay, I'm frying an egg. The toast is getting crispy. Or need more coffee. You know, simple.
Right. Keep it simple.
And that leads to another key point they made, especially for when you're alone and maybe get stuck. Simplify the thought itself.
How do you mean?
Well, instead of struggling with, like, a really complex sentence you'd use in your native language,
Yeah.
maybe something like, I am utterly overwhelmed with responsibilities today. Just dial it back.
Okay.
Think something easier in English, like, I have too much work today, or even just so much work.
Gotcha. So the goal isn't perfect complex sentences right away.
Not at all. It's about automaticity, getting your brain to default to English. It's like rewiring those pathways in your brain so English comes out more easily over time.
Okay. That makes sense. They even suggested a little exercise, didn't they?
They did. Set a timer, maybe just 5 minutes to start, and just think.
Yeah.
Only in English. No translating allowed.
Just purely thinking in English. That sounds like a good mental workout.
It really is. And it flows perfectly into their next technique, which is taking those thoughts.
And saying them out loud.
Exactly. Talking to yourself.
Right. Which, okay, might feel a bit weird for some people practicing alone.
Oh, for sure. They totally acknowledge that. Like, you might feel silly chanting away to yourself or, talking to the mirror like they joked about.
Yeah.
But the point was to just normalize it. Get over that initial awkwardness. Because doing it actually builds comfort. You get used to forming English sentences out loud. It really helps fluency.
And it's a safe space, right? No
Yeah.
pressure.
Absolutely. No one's judging you. You can experiment. You can make mistakes. It doesn't matter.
So what kind of things did they suggest talking about?
All sorts. Like literally describe what you're doing as you do it. Okay, now I'm washing the dishes. Or pretend you're explaining something. Maybe explaining how to make your favorite meal to an imaginary friend.
Oh, acting out little conversations.
Yeah, fake conversations. It's all about getting your mouth and your brain coordinated, working together in English without the stress of a real interaction.
Okay. So thinking in English, then saying those thoughts out loud. What comes next if you're like running out of things to say to yourself?
Ah, good question. That leads perfectly into the next technique they covered, shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay, I've heard of this. It sounds quite powerful for like tuning your ear and your mouth.
It really is. The idea is you take some audio or video, it could be anything, a podcast, a TV show clip, YouTube.
Something with a native speaker.
Preferably, yeah.
Yeah.
And you listen, and you pause, and you repeat exactly what they just said.
Not just the words, though.
No, that's the key. You try to copy everything, their speed, their tone, the rhythm, the little ups and downs in their voice, the intonation.
Wow. Okay, so it's more than just pronunciation. It's the whole melody of the language.
Precisely. They said it's like having a pronunciation coach right there. You listen, pause, replicate. Listen, pause, replicate. It helps build that muscle memory in your mouth for English sounds.
And they mentioned something important for beginners too, right? About understanding.
Yeah, that you don't actually need to understand every single word when you start shadowing. The main thing initially is copying the sound, the rhythm, getting your mouth used to forming those shapes and flows.
That's encouraging. It takes the pressure off a bit.
Totally. They compared it to how babies learn language. They listen and mimic sounds long before they know what all the words mean. It's about familiarity with the soundscape of English.
Makes sense. Okay, so thinking, talking, shadowing. What's next? This one, I imagine, might make people squirm a little.
Ah, yes. Recording yourself speaking.
Yeah. Seeing, or rather hearing yourself, as others do.
And the podcast hosts were really funny and honest about this. One of them basically said they cringed so hard the first time they listened back.
Haha. I can relate to that.
Said it sounded nothing like they thought they did. Called it painful to listen to.
Oh, dear. But they still recommended it.
Strongly. They framed it as, like, essential feedback. They compared it to athletes watching game tapes.
Ah, okay. To spot the mistakes.
Exactly. You can't fix what you aren't aware of. Listening back forces you to notice things. Maybe you speak too fast or too slow. Maybe you use a lot of filler words like and
Or pronunciation issues you didn't realize you had.
Precisely. That self-awareness, even if it's a bit uncomfortable at first, is the first step to actually improving those specific things.
So how do you start? Did they suggest something simple?
Yeah, really simple. Just grab your phone, record yourself for maybe just 1 minute, talk about something easy like, what did I do today?
Okay.
And then listen back. Don't overanalyze, just make a few notes. What did you notice? And they emphasize that if you do this regularly, you will notice improvement over time. That first listen might be tough.
But it gets easier.
Hopefully. And more importantly, you start hearing the progress. It's about using that feedback loop for growth. And hey, the good news is you don't just have to rely on your own ears anymore.
Ah, right. Technology.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads nicely into their next point, practicing with AI and apps.
Yeah, these tools have exploded recently, haven't they? So accessible.
Totally. And super useful for solo learners.
Yeah.
They mentioned things like AI chatbots, like ChatGPT. You can actually have typed or even spoken conversations with it in English. And you can even ask it for grammar corrections or suggestions.
Wow. Okay.
And then there are specific language learning apps. Some focus purely on pronunciation, like Elsa Speak was one they mentioned. It listens to you and gives really specific feedback on how accurate your sounds are.
That's amazing. It's like having a patient tutor available whenever you want.
Right? 24/7, no judgment. You can go at your own pace. They used a nice analogy for people maybe nervous about talking to real people.
What was that?
Using AI is like using training wheels on a bike.
Ah, I like that. Build your confidence in a safe space before you hit the road.
Exactly. A low-pressure way to get started.
Okay, so once you're maybe feeling a bit more confident, putting sentences together, maybe using AI, what else? They talked about reading, right? But reading aloud.
Yes, and they made a really important distinction here. Silent reading is great, obviously, for vocab, for comprehension.
But it doesn't help your speaking muscles.
Exactly. Reading aloud actively trains your mouth, your tongue, your lips to make the English sounds. It's a physical exercise for fluency.
So it's a different skill altogether.
Completely. One of the hosts shared that they made a point of reading all sorts of things aloud. Books, news articles, even like the grocery list.
Whatever works.
Just to get that practice in.
Yeah.
And they had some fun suggestions too, like if you watch movies with English subtitles.
Try reading the subtitles out loud as they appear.
Yeah. It mimics the rhythm of conversation. Or another one was pretending to be a news reporter when reading an article. Adopt that clear, projected voice.
Makes it less boring, I suppose.
Definitely more engaging. And their main point was, look, even just 5 or 10 minutes of focused reading aloud each day can make a real difference to your pronunciation and how smoothly you speak.
5 or 10 minutes. That sounds doable. Okay, building on that idea of sounding more natural, the next one was about imitation, wasn't it?
Yes, actively imitating native speakers. This is apparently a favorite technique for one of the hosts.
So this goes beyond just shadowing the rhythm.
A little bit, yeah. It's maybe more focused. You take a short clip, a native speaker could be from anywhere. Movie, interview, YouTube short.
Okay.
You listen to one sentence, pause. Then you really try to replicate it. Not just the words, but the speed, the intonation of the little pauses, the connections between words. everything.
Like learning a song by ear, trying to match the singer, exactly.
That's the exact comparison they used. You're not just learning the lyrics, you're trying to capture the performance.
And they suggested picking someone specific.
Yeah, find a speaker whose accent or style you actually like, someone you admire, and sort of try to become them for a moment, like acting.
Interesting. So you're really tuning into the nuances.
The hosts who liked this said they used YouTube videos a lot for this, and it really helped their English sound less, translated and more natural.
Active listening plus active mimicry.
Okay. It's about internalizing those natural patterns. And speaking of natural flow and making practice enjoyable, the final technique they discussed was singing.
Singing along to English songs. I love this one. Because it really doesn't feel like work.
Not at all. But it's surprisingly effective. Music just naturally teaches you the rhythm and flow of English, how words link together.
Yeah, you don't think too hard about pronunciation when you're singing, do you?
Exactly. You kind of relax, stop overthinking, and just go with the flow of the music. And that flow often mirrors how people actually talk. You pick up contractions like going instead of going to.
Or how words smush together.
Yeah, those connected speech patterns. They mentioned learning stuff like that from listening to, Ed Sheeran or the Beatles. It happens almost subconsciously.
And you definitely don't need to be a good singer, right?
Oh, absolutely not. They made that very clear. The goal isn't a perfect performance. It's just matching the sounds and the rhythm as best you can.
And they even threw in karaoke as a suggestion.
Yeah, like ultimate disguise practice, right? You're having fun, you're immersed, and you're absorbing vocabulary and phrases without even realizing you're studying.
Brilliant. Okay, so those are the main techniques, but they also had that extra segment at the end, didn't they? The vocabulary part.
Oh, yes, Charlotte's vocabulary section.
Oh,
That sounded really useful.
what was the idea there?
Well, apparently their colleague Charlotte would join them, and she'd pick out some of the more intermediate level words that the main hosts, Aaron and Evan, had used during the discussion.
Okay, so words that came up naturally in their conversation.
Exactly. And she would break them down, explain the meaning clearly, give examples of how to use them in different situations.
So it reinforces the learning. You hear the word used, then you get a mini lesson on it.
Precisely. It's about encouraging listeners to not just understand those slightly trickier words, but to actually start using them in their own speaking and writing. Because, expanding your active vocabulary is key for sounding more nuanced and confident.
Definitely. Okay, so, wow, that's a lot of ground we've covered. Let's maybe just quickly recap those main solo practice techniques they shared.
Sure. So number one was consciously thinking in English, bypassing translation.
Right. Then actually talking to yourself, getting comfortable forming sentences aloud.
Then the shadowing technique, mimicking native speaker rhythm and intonation.
Followed by the slightly scary but powerful step of recording yourself to identify areas for improvement.
Yep. Then leveraging technology using AI and language apps for practice and feedback.
Making reading aloud a regular habit to train those speaking muscles.
Actively imitating native speakers you admire, focusing on the details of their speech.
And finally, the fun one, singing along to English songs to absorb the natural flow.
That's a pretty comprehensive toolkit for solo practice.
It really is. But as they stressed, and as we should stress too, just knowing these isn't enough, is it?
Not at all. The real magic happens when you actually, do them consistently, weaving them into your routine. That's where the progress comes from.
Absolutely. And just another reminder about that PDF guide they mentioned. If you want more structured exercises or just a recap, search for the English Leap podcast episode on YouTube. The link should be in their description.
Good point. It sounds like a helpful resource to pair with these ideas.
So the main message is keep going, keep practicing, experiment with these different methods. Don't get discouraged. Every little bit helps.
It really does. Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. Looking at all these different techniques, thinking, talking, shadowing, recording, apps, reading aloud, imitating, singing, which one or maybe two of those kind of jumps out at you? Which one feels like it might fit your learning style best or just seems interesting to try?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe pick one you haven't tried before.
Perhaps. Just maybe think about trying one or two out this week. See how it feels. See what happens.
Yeah.
You might just surprise yourself.